So, welcome to this COP26 Learning Hub podcast today. This one's titled Sharing How You Inspire Organisations so they can embed or unlock social and environmental value across the value chain. And I'm joined by Mo today. So, Mo, I'm going to hand over to you so you can introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your role and company.
Thank you so much, Emma. Hi, everyone. I am Mohini. You can call me Mo. I work for a company called Accenture. Accenture is a leading global professional services company. We provide a huge range of services that span from strategy and consulting through to technology and operations. We have specializations in over 40 industries, and we're a pretty big business of over 500,000 people across more than 120 countries. I myself am based in the UK and lead our responsible business agenda. Can you hear me?
I can, sorry, it was a slight pause there, Mo. It would be really good probably to kick off to just explain a little bit about Accenture and how they define social value.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with the word value. At Accenture, our definition of value is really rooted in our purpose for essentially why we exist in the world. So at Accenture, we have our purpose defined as delivering on the promise of technology and human ingenuity. We really have embraced the shift from creating value for shareholders to creating value for stakeholders. And that really is at the core of how we're now thinking about value. So we consider delivering value for shareholders, for our employees, for our partners, for our communities, and of course, the clients and customers that we serve. And it's delivering value essentially for all of these groups that we call it a shared success. And so how we've articulated that is in the form of what we've defined as a 360-degree value meter. And so the idea being that we are able to demonstrate that for everything we do, we deliver impact to people and the planet. And that's not just about delivering a financial business case, but it's also about how we support our clients and partner with them to achieve greater progress, whether it's on dimensions such as inclusion and diversity, around talent, sustainability, or actually providing meaningful experiences for not only Accenture employees, but also for the wider customers that our clients are trying to serve, as well as the employees of our clients. So for us, value is a combination of both financial and non-financial value, and it's about always the two being side by side.
That's brilliant. That was really nicely put, actually. Great explanation there. So what does Accenture, what are they seeing in the marketplace at the moment?
Yeah, it's a really interesting time. It's safe to say the market has somewhat really woken up to the sustainability agenda. ESG now appears as one of the top 5 priorities for chief execs for the first time. I think the pandemic has obviously accelerated this, and now over 70% of our FTSE 100, for example, has announced corporate goals, whether it's pertaining to net zero or diversity. And I think this has really cemented this link between business resilience and ESG performance. So it's really great for folks who have been deeply passionate about this agenda for a number of years to see this become a real priority for the business community. And really what that means is it's challenging the boards of most businesses. So whether it's your chief procurement officer or your chief information officer or your chief financial officer, all need to think completely differently about how they reimagine their business models to account for either mitigating or enhancing their ESG impact in order to deliver on these corporate goals. And I think what's also a shift that we're seeing in the marketplace is how there's an expectation of transparency along this journey. So we're seeing a real increase in demand from whether it's investors, consumers, and even government, with the announcement of their Social Value Act in procurement, or their guidelines for ensuring that for government contracts you need to have a net zero plan, for example. So we're really seeing transparency as well being at the heart of this shift towards every business being a sustainable business.
That's so true. I'm so glad that you raised that transparency piece. We were just saying the other day, and that transparency hopefully will also lead to people sharing a bit more best practice as well, because people are being a lot more honest and open about kind of what they're doing and shouting a lot more about it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Emma. I think what this is fundamentally highlighting is that it's no longer enough to be compliant. It's about showing up differently and actually living your values. And it's also about how I think business works together in tackling some of these real challenges ahead, right, around some of the wider kind of climate and societal issues that we have staring at us in the face. So I couldn't agree more with your sentiment.
Thank you. So leading on to next, so what does this look like in how you're kind of changing the way that you're serving your clients?
I would say one of the key areas where we've seen like a real shift is how our clients are using their buying power to influence their supply chain to achieve their ESG goals or ambitions. So for a firm like us, we're a B2B type setup. So we've really had to think about how we develop an inside out and outside in approach. And when I say that, what I mean is that we have had to look at how do we translate our corporate initiatives, for example, to deliver social value, but also to internalize, what we're learning from the services we deliver to our clients to be our own best credential. So we're really trying to create this virtuous circle. And what this looks like, just to bring it to life with a couple of examples. So if we, for example, have our own net zero goals, we want to be net zero by 2025. And we are striving to ensure that our environmental targets are translated into really measurable outcomes, even when it comes to our own service delivery. So we are investing in developing tools and capabilities that, for example, allow us to measure our carbon footprint for services that we deliver. And that is a starting point. But what we're also doing is thinking about, well, how do we design with social value at the heart of our solutions and our products and services. So as an example, something that we've done for decades is, as a service, cost analysis. And that's specifically important right now, given how many of our clients are under increasing cost pressures. But what we're doing now is we're adding a lens that says, when you're looking, for example, at saving energy costs, you're also looking at what it would cost to switch to renewable energy. Or when you're looking at consolidating suppliers, which is, again, it's about getting better rates, reducing costs, that you're also ensuring that you don't stop using small to medium businesses that are in your supply chain as a result of that consolidation, or you're not using diverse businesses that you might have invested in your local community. So fundamentally, when you put that social value lens over a existing kind of typical business type problem, you actually have to find ways to get to a win-win. so you're not inadvertently hurting these other really important goals, and think of the problem in its complete totality in terms of the impact you have on society and the environment. And that is fundamentally, I think, what responsible business looks like.
That's really good. I'm so glad that you mentioned that about the procurement part. I think that's such a good point about having that balance and, explain to people, yes, we understand, your bottom line, your business, but it needs to be more than that now. And it needs to make sure that you have that balance, or as you put it, that social value lens. So how is Accenture partnering with clients to deliver social value?
Yeah, we are starting to really change the way we solution for our clients, and put sustainability almost as a core component. So it's built in and not bolt on. And we have pulled together a responsible business framework. It's almost like a methodology that helps us think about how we solution for our clients, which starts with really looking at the value at stake for the broader set of stakeholders to begin with in the context of a client problem. And so that is thinking about the client problem in the context of the supply chain, your average citizen, your consumers, the client, your employee base of the client, as well as the local community. And we actually then look at the extended consequences of that solution in the context of all of these stakeholders being impacted, which actually helps us to then think about how to either mitigate the extended impacts that are negative in nature or enhance the positive impacts. And by factoring in these extended consequences, it actually really fundamentally can change the design of a solution. So it by putting sustainability at the core, as I mentioned earlier, it really tends to drive the innovation that is needed to deliver both the financial and non-financial benefits, for a much broader set of stakeholders than had we just looked at it from an economics point of view, for example, cost reduction. So this framework that we now apply throughout the way in which we solve problems for our clients is how we are building in sustainability.
That's great. I'm really glad that you mentioned about the framework there as well. That's really good and really important, I think, for companies to start looking at, is to really take a step back and look at their framework and how that they can incorporate that properly. Finally, because I don't want to keep you too long, though, how is Accenture embedding this into the organisation? And have you got some maybe top 3 tips for organisations?
Yes, and I will say, first of all, this is a journey and everyone's on a learning curve here. So certainly the top tips I'm sharing are based on the experience I've had to date and the reflections from an organization of the size and scale of Accenture. But my first tip would be to think of this as a long arc of change. It's a real shift of minds and hearts, and it takes time. So it's important that organizations take a really long-term view on investing in learning and development, for example, to really strengthen the sustainability DNA almost of an organization. So as an example, in Accenture, we're investing heavily in training our people with what we call sustainability quotient training, to build everyone's knowledge, everyone's basic knowledge on this topic to a certain level. And we're also complementing that with training in specific areas like carbon literacy, so that people can not only work more sustainably, but also live more sustainably. And I think that's especially important in a hybrid working environment that we're increasingly in. So top tip number one is really about being patient. Top tip number two is about the importance of accountability being built top down in your organization. We did a recent study, this is last year, where we found that 68% of senior execs believe that they could create empowering workplace environments, but actually only 36% of employees agreed. So there's this real need for responsible leadership, and accountability is a core part of that. And it needs to be tangible and measurable so that actually you're able to track the behavior change, so that your leaders are demonstrating not only the values of the organization, but are also delivering social value. And, it has to filter not only from, the CEO level, but right through to middle management, because authenticity is just so key in this. So that would be that is a hard one, and it will take time, I'm sure. But it's if that's built in from the start, I think it will make the next phase of the culture change in the organization a lot easier. And finally, top tip number 3, I would say, is that stories matter. This is such a new way of thinking and doing. And people really are at the heart of making any organization a sustainable organization, that it's important to bring this quite new area to life with examples. So it's important to invest in getting like a credential of what good looks like, what good behavior looks like, what good outcomes look like, so that it will help you, if you're a sustainability professional, build your credibility in demonstrating that win-win. Which is, delivering material business value, but also ESG value. So I would say those are my top 3 tips. I'm sure there's plenty more out there, and I'd love to hear more from anyone else who's also on this incredibly exciting journey.
Mohini, thank you so much. Them top 3 tips are absolutely brilliant. So it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to chat to you today. So I just wanted to finish off by saying a massive thank you.
Thank you for having me, Emma.
My pleasure.